I'm joined by McCready, Ryan Soares, and Kathryn McCrindle, the three finalists for the upcoming Tableau Viz 2025 competition, for an exclusive unplugged conversation.
Yeah, I saw the email from Tableau and I just said, no way.
Soon after that, I was like, this is going to be a ton of work.
I was sort of silently screaming.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. This podcast is brought to you by Business Intelligence. That's BIZNIS Intelligence. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Business Intelligence to stay up to date with Tableau training and the Data Nerd Podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn or stream the Data Nerd Podcast across all major podcast platforms. We're going to go behind the scenes, get to know the finalists here. So the Viz is Tableau's premier data event. It's really the big draw at the conference. You're in front of thousands of people in person and many more live streaming as well. And so the theme for this year is entertainment, covering everything from movies, music, sports, and more. And so the three finalists that I have on here made it to the top three candidates. They submitted their vizzes, and they're going to come on stage, and they'll have 20 minutes to kind of reproduce what they've put together and present it to the audience and have us vote on who the winner will be. So that will be in April 15th to 17th. And so today, what I want to do is I want to chat and kind of get to know them, get to know their journey, what's their, find out what makes them tick, what they like, what their style's like, maybe get to know them a little personally, and then maybe ask, who do you think is going to win, and get kind of a little bit of a precursor before the competition itself. So with that, I'd like to introduce this, Bo, Kathryn, and Ryan as the Tableau Viz Finalist Unplugged Meet the Data Rockstars. So that's my intro. I'm not Andy Congreve, right? But I try my best. Andy is usually the host, and I'm sure you guys have seen previous competitions with him as well. But I'm so glad to have the three of you on here today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to be a part of this.
Awesome. So this being the Data Nerd Podcast, I do like to ask all my guests if they're a data nerd, and if so, tell me your story when you realized you were one. So we'll start off, Kathryn, if you want to kick us off and answer that question.
All right, I say I am a data nerd. I don't think I would have made it to the final of Viz if I wasn't. And I'm not sure exactly when I realised, but I think it's two things. When first of all you realise that you're excited about things you're doing at work. So if someone says, even just data-wise and not visualization, we have an issue here, we're seeing this number and we're not expecting to see it. I love diving in, and I now have the skills to know where I should be looking, and nothing thrills me more than to dive in and find out what the issue is. And the other thing would be when data creeps into your day-to-day life. So, for example, we were trying to organise a holiday with me and my friends, and we're saying, okay, do we want a weekend away? Do we want a week? Is it the beach? Is it a city break? And everyone on WhatsApp, we were all like giving our ideas. And I thought, no, there's a better way of doing this. So then it comes the Google form and the Tableau dashboard that follows it. And I think my friends at that point thought I was a bit nerdy, but enjoyed it anyway. So
at least when I was growing up, a nerd was, if you were considered a nerd, it was kind of like an insult. But now I think it's cool to be a nerd.
Yeah.
So, but it's great to hear your journey and what makes you a data nerd. Kind of your curiosity is what made you realize you're a data nerd, right?
Yep,
That's
exactly.
great to hear. Bo, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, and I think when I look back on how my career developed too, I actually feel like I kind of tried to resist the data label for a while. I was always doing quantitative work, but whenever I'd hear things like, "Oh, he's the data guy," that's the data guy here. I'd be like, "No. I'm so much more than that. I can do this and that, and look at this other thing I know how to do, and like I can run focus groups and lead meetings and do strategic planning and all this stuff." But as my career has evolved, I think my focus has gotten, narrower and narrower, and I've kind of accepted that, like, yeah, you know what, I am a data guy, and I'm gonna lean in and embrace it, and yeah, have a good time with it. And I think, after all the years I spent kind of resisting that, and trying to think of other directions to go in. It's also easy for me to look back to when I was a kid and I'd play a baseball game or a football game, and I'd come home and in a notebook write down all my statistics so that I could track them over time, and like pour over baseball cards and all that. So I think the roots have always been there, and I might have tried to take my career in some other directions first, but ultimately this is probably always what I was meant to end up doing.
Listen, you're owning the data, the data guy. Look at your shirt. Like, I mean,
That's
that
right.
doesn't
That's
say
right.
data. That there's nothing that says data more than that shirt, right?
Totally. Yep.
Awesome. The baseball cards too. For me, growing up, I loved looking at the back of baseball cards and looking at the stats there. So I can relate to that. So great. So how Ryan? How about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think what Kathryn said is so true. Like the three of us wouldn't be part of the Viz finale if we weren't data nerds. So for me, I think it kind of came when I started doing data visualization more as a hobby, like not just for work purposes, like building dashboards and reports for just work. I think a big part of it came from my interest in sports. I'm a big lover of sports data, sports analytics, and that's a big part of the sports world today. It's ingrained in everything. So when I would see things on social media that are like stats or data or in news articles or social media posts, I would kind of always think, how can I make a visualization on this? How can I like tell a story better with data? And that's kind of how I developed doing things on Tableau Public for a hobby of mine. So I think when that started, that's kind of where I realized, like, hey, yeah, maybe I can kind of take this data thing more as a hobby and turn it into a career, and that's kind of the direction I've gone.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you're from Canada. I'm originally from Canada as well. So I'm assuming hockey is your favorite sport.
It's not actually.
It's not? What is it?
For me, it's mainly tennis and golf. Those two.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know. I gotta see I think that's kind of a prerequisite to be Canadian, isn't it? To kind of at least like hockey.
I guess, but I mean, it's so popular around here that sometimes I want to go in a different direction.
That's true. That's true, right? You want to be different. That's good. That's good. No, so thanks, Ryan. Great story there. So nice to hear all of your kind of backstories and what makes you a data nerd. But let's talk about your if you want to introduce yourself from a professional standpoint, where you're based out of and what you do. So Kathryn, we'll start with you.
So I'm Scottish, but I moved to Belgium 6 years ago now, actually, to work for a company called Viz, and there I'm an analytics consultant, and I have the pleasure of working with a few other Iron Viz finalists there, Timothy and Daniel, and well, Sam has just left us, but yeah, him too. So yeah, it's been inspirational to work with them, and it's boosted me up, I think.
Awesome. And how long have you been using Tableau for?
I think about 8 years now. I used it at my previous company, started to I was using Power BI, then I moved to Tableau and preferred Tableau. I haven't used Power BI for a while, so I can't say still that it's better, but yeah, maybe personal preference. And then when I started to get into Tableau, I started watching things like the Tableau Conference and then finding out the companies that were doing Tableau really well. And at the time, actually, so my boyfriend had moved to Belgium. And I didn't know much about Belgium at this point. I don't think Belgians are very good at advertising themselves at all. So I think everyone thinks Belgium's boring. I think that's the stereotype. So he had moved a year before, and I thought, okay, if the right opportunity comes up, I will also move. And then I found out about Biztory, and then I realized they were based in Belgium. So both things came together, and it was perfect. So yeah, that's how I.
Awesome. I have not been to Belgium, but I'll put it on my list.
I would highly recommend.
Yeah, for sure. It does get cold in the winter though, right? So you'd recommend going in the summertime?
Yeah, I guess so. I think there's a lot of expats here, and they're all complaining about the weather. But for me, it's tropical weather compared to Scotland, so
Right.
it doesn't bother me.
Great. Bo, how about you? Tell us about your experience and where you're based out of.
Yeah, so I'm currently based out of Austin, Texas, and I manage a data science team for one of the companies that has a big presence here. And yeah, gosh, my career journey. So I actually started out working in the education world. So I did my PhD in educational leadership at the University of Wisconsin, and then kind of dove right into doing data work in urban education and kind of everything that entails. And so spent a while doing that. And then ultimately kind of wanted to make a career transition, try something different, specialize a little more in analytics and data visualization. So moved down to Austin in 2019 and have had a couple roles down here, but been in my current role for a while now. And so I guess I've been using Tableau since 2012, actually, kind of the very start of my career. It was one of the first tools that I picked up, and I've stuck with it ever since.
The first conference I went to was in Austin. I think that was
2016.
Yeah.
That was my first Tableau conference as well. Yep, but didn't live here yet. But it was my first exposure to the city. So
that's where I kind of it just opened my eyes after I went to that conference. I'm like, this is what I wanted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you are a Tableau ambassador, right?
I am. Yeah, I've been a Tableau Public ambassador for the last few years as well. So yeah, Tableau Public has been definitely a career-changing and life-changing venue for me, for sure. So yeah, I'm honored to be part of that community and help represent.
Great. Awesome. That's great. Ryan, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm based in Toronto, Canada. So I live around 20 minutes outside of the city, but I'll say I'm from Toronto.
Which town are you based out of?
Ajax, Ontario.
Oh, I used to live in Whitby.
Oh,
I know the area very well.
So we're technically neighbors then.
Yeah.
So I went to school in Waterloo. I did business and computer science. So that was around 8 years ago. And actually, I picked up Tableau like at that time when I was doing internships and co-op jobs. And then from there, I discovered these student visualization competitions that Tableau was running at the time. So I thought it was, a cool way to, practice Tableau, but also compete at the same time. So I did those for a couple of years, and I eventually entered one that was hosted by Deloitte and Tableau, like a joint competition, with a couple classmates of mine, and we won that competition. That kind of led me into this world of data and visual analytics as kind of a career. So that's how I got my way to Deloitte, where I've been part of the visual analytics team for the last 4 years. And outside of that, as similar to Bo, I'm active on Tableau Public. So that's been a way that I've been introduced to the Tableau community, which has been very supportive and part of my journey as well. So yeah, I think Tableau, both professionally and also as a hobby, is something that I think I try to brand myself as.
Yeah, that's great. So you have a history of winning competitions, right? Does that scare you guys, Kathryn and Bo?
Just a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, but we know Ryan's a pro.
Yeah. Listen, you're all pros, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't, right? But let me ask you, when you found out that you were selected as a finalist, what was your reaction? Anyone can start. Who wants to start?
Oh gosh, yeah, I was out to dinner with my family, and just opened my phone as a reflex, opened up the email, and I saw the email from Tableau, and I just said, no way. I'm like, handed the phone over to my wife, and like had a good period there of like making her reread it and make sure like, no, this actually says what you think it says. And then I replied to the email and was like, did you accidentally send this to everybody who entered, or like, did you mean to send this to me? But thankfully it was, it went to the right place. So yeah, definitely a lot of disbelief, and I'm still not sure that the disbelief has worn off.
And I'm sure as the time comes closer to the competition, maybe not even during the competition, maybe afterwards, you're gonna look back and be like, wow, this was quite a journey.
Yeah.
How about you guys, Ryan, Kathryn? What was your reaction?
For me, like whenever I have submitted for Iron Viz, this is the 5th time I've done it. It was always like top 10 would be great. Like let's try to go for that at least. And I've gotten that a couple times before, but this time when I got the email exactly as Bo got it, I was like, okay, top 10, great. But then you realize it's top 3, and for me, I was excited, but then also soon after that, I was like, there's going to be a ton of work, and it's going to be like a whirlwind for the next few months. So it was both excitement, but also not regret, but like I'm going to need to be ready. I'm going to need to be prepared for how this next few months is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk a little bit about that preparation process as well, as we go through this the questions. But Kathryn, want to get your reactions. What was your reaction when you found out?
I think the same as what Ryan's saying there with because this is my first time entering Iron Viz, and the whole of October I worked really, really hard, and it was like most evenings I was okay. I was plunking away in my laptop, and I thought, okay, work really hard for this month, and then just leave it alone. And then I never thought I would be in the top 3, so you're not thinking I'll work really hard this month so that I can work really hard next year as well for a few months. But here we are. But yeah, because of the time difference, the email came through like 1 a.m, I think, during a weeknight. So I was asleep. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I checked my phone, and that's when I saw it. My boyfriend isn't a very good morning person, so I was sort of silently screaming and thinking like, I don't know whether to wake him up or not, because I know that.
I think Kathryn's screen froze up. Okay, let's wait for Kathryn to come back. That's good. No, I'll let you continue. You're talking about when you found out and you woke up in the morning to tell your boyfriend.
Yeah, so I didn't know whether to wake him up or not, because I didn't want the whole experience to be soured by him complaining that I've woken him up before he realizes why. So yeah, I waited till the morning. I told him I had exciting news for him once he'd fully woken up. He said, "No, tell me now." I said, "No, I'll wait till you've fully opened your eyes, and then I'll do my big reveal."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we. And I think I phoned my mum as well, and I think with my friends too, they don't really. It doesn't seem like a big deal to them. Like, you're in Iron Viz. Oh, okay, what's that? Oh, you won or you're in a competition. Oh, that's brilliant. But then I sent them a YouTube video of like Iron Viz last year, and that's when they were like, "Oh my goodness, this is like Britain's Got Talent or something. This is amazing."
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. If you look at the scale of it, it's almost like being on stage at America's Got Talent. Even the size of the crowd, you got the judges, the whole the showcase itself. So no, it's well deserved for all 3 of you, and regardless of who wins. I think you're all winners just for being a part of it, right? But just for context, and for people who are maybe in the future wanting to submit for the Iron Viz. Just in terms of hours, I have a number in my head. Can you each tell me how many hours it took you to create each one of your visualizations that you've submitted? Kathryn, how many hours?
Oof.
Approximate.
Say it was like 2 hours a night, 5 nights a week. Maybe about 40 hours.
40 hours?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Bo?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because, it's stop and start, but I probably would have said, 30 to 40 hours, somewhere in that range.
And Ryan?
Yeah, I agreed for me. Of technical hands-on work, but for me, I'm thinking about it like for much of that time as well. So
And you're not using that time, you're not counting that time as part of the 40, right?
no, like there's thinking of an idea coming up with like a story or something.
Yes.
That's something you're not counting that time all the time.
When I work in Tableau, or this is a project I'm working on, the best ideas come when I'm not thinking about it. When I'm doing something random on the weekend, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a great idea. So you're right. It's always on the top of your mind. But it's good to know, how many hours goes into this. But I'm sure there's a lot more work from here till April that you guys have to put in, right? And are you excited? What's your sentiment here? Are you nervous, excited? What are you guys feeling?
I think it's a mix of a lot of different emotions. Definitely excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, but nervous too. It's a new thing. For as much experience as all of us have on the platform, this is just a different animal entirely. I've been to Iron Viz Live, I think 6 or 7 times now, and so I'd like to think I have some idea what I'm getting into. But yeah, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. Yeah. Excited, nervous, a bunch of things all at once.
Yeah. How about you guys, Kathryn?
For me, it's for me, it's excitement, and I'm really looking forward to the whole experience. Although it'll be crazy and busy, I think I've seen it, as Bo said, I've seen it live a bunch of times. So actually seeing the behind the scenes, how it works, and then ultimately getting to participate in it, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Kathryn?
For me too, excitement. But as Bo was saying, it's a different animal. Like even with the feeder contest, I've never done a long form viz before. Or there's ways of, I know that Bo didn't do a long form, but there's different ways of showing a dashboard that doesn't require I don't know. It's just different from a business dashboard, the feeder, and then this is a new thing entirely where it needs to look good on a big screen, and it needs to be that you are the one narrating the story, and the user can't play around with things. And yeah, you need to make it look interactive or bring them into the story without them getting to touch anything. So yeah, it's something I've never done before, so quite exciting. But
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, and this question is for anyone, right? And you don't all have to answer these questions. We'll just keep it casual. Pretend we're sitting around, we're having coffee, and we're just chatting. Okay. Do you feel imposter syndrome? Is there some level of kind of questioning whether you belong here? Because I feel that a lot of people don't submit because they think that they're not good enough. Is that a real sentiment?
I think for me, 100%, because these two are, Tableau ambassadors, Tableau legends, and I've just come out of nowhere, kind of. So even my colleagues were saying, "Oh my God, it's like you're up against these two. Like we know who they are. No one knows who I am because I've just started doing, more Tableau Public stuff and so on." So for sure, to be on stage with these two is quite daunting, and I do feel the imposter syndrome.
But that's a great story, right? For a lot of people who are in similar shoes as you, they see all of these great vizzes. You get like Tableau Viz of the day, and you're like, oh, this is like next level. But I think you have to give yourself more credit. Sometimes you don't know how good you are until you put yourself in those situations to have that opportunity, right?
Yeah, I think before when I saw Iron Viz entries, it was always like something really, really fancy. Take Samuel Parsons' Rivers of Time thing, where I look at it and think, I could never do this. But then I took a step back and thought, okay, it's about telling a good story. You just need to tell the story. It doesn't need to be groundbreaking stuff that you're doing here. It doesn't need to be the fanciest thing you've ever seen. You just need to tell this story well, and you know how to do that. So yeah, that's how I approached it.
Yeah, because this competition is not only about how pretty it looks, it's the narrative, right? It's a story. How do you tell that story? And ultimately that's what Tableau's used for, right? It's not just to create pretty visually appealing dashboards, it's to tell that story. And so what aspect of the development of each one of your dashboards did you pay attention to that component of storytelling?
I think for me, a lot of the storytelling within my project honestly just came from, choosing a topic I was personally really curious about. And so I just thought, as I was working with the data, as I was putting together my visuals, I was thinking like, what do I want to know about? And so honestly, like a lot of how the project progressed was just like, yeah, I'm really curious about this thing. And then, you try it, you explore it, you build something, you take a look at it and you think, was this interesting? Or like, no. And, if I show this to someone else, are they going to find it interesting? Is it going to resonate with them too? So and I think that's, not just the case for my Iron Viz project, but, really a lot of the work I try to do. Yeah, I try to really put myself in the user's shoes, but also, I think, and I think it comes across really in all three of our final projects. They're so different from one another, but all just really cool in different ways. I think they reflect our personalities and our styles really well. And I think, yeah, Kathryn, your comment really resonated about seeing Sam's project a few years ago as well, because I think of that Rivers of Time project. I remember the first time that I popped that open on my computer, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I even doing here? Like, why am I entering these competitions? I could never have come up with this, and I still couldn't. I could imitate it, I could copy it. I could never come up with something like that. But I found my things that I could come up with, and each of you did too. And they're fantastic in their own unique ways. And so I think, for me, it's asking my own questions of the data, finding things that I hope are going to resonate with other people, and this time they did.
Yeah, and it's great that you're taking previous competitions, or you're taking inspiration from people who've done this in the past, right? And I think you kind of have to, just to see like what you're getting into, and kind of give you an idea on what it takes to be on stage. Maybe let's talk about each one of your submissions, right? Like, so the theme is entertainment, and so Bo, you talked about your dashboard is on one hit wonders, right? So what made you choose that theme?
Oh gosh, yeah. So the data set I used for this project, the Billboard Hot 100 data set that Sean Miller, aka Hipster Viz Ninja, has been curating for years now. I spent a lot of time kind of playing with that data set, and I think this topic really stuck out for me in that, like, I've used that data set for several creative projects before. And so I think anytime I'm mining a new, gigantic, interesting data set, one of the things I like to do is push towards the outliers in every direction that I can think of. What are the weirdest things in this data set? What are the most unconventional patterns? And can we do something cool and interesting with that? And so, like, when you start looking at, like, oh, hey, like, what are the most successful songs? What are the most successful songs by year? What are, who are the artists who show up a lot? Who are the artists who don't show up a lot? And then who are the artists, that kind of naturally brings it to, well, who's only on here once ever? And then are any of those songs I know? And you start looking through and you're like, oh yeah, this is huge. I never realized this artist, only really, had the one thing. And so I would say it was kind of like, a process of hunting for interesting outliers. And then when one of those patterns in the data connected with, a concept I knew about in the real world, it was kind of a natural intersection to dive in a little bit more.
Did you, and I don't know if your dashboard touches on this or if you've even got a chance to look at this, did you notice that there was a certain type of music that was usually one hit wonders or a certain
Yeah,
genre?
I feel like it evolves a lot over time. I feel like one of the things that definitely sticks out if you're going by like kind of the data-driven definition of a one-hit wonder that I use is you see a lot of novelty music over the years, like a lot of people who do these kind of novelty songs like seasonal things or something about kind of a moment in pop culture that is, going to be relevant to people for, a few months, and then, a year or two in the future they don't think about it, quite so much. So I think there's a lot of that throughout the data. But otherwise, I think part of the fun was just seeing what the huge variety was. I ended up building playlists and like working with, audio characteristic data. And yeah, it's cool. You have everything from like surf instrumentals to, hip hop to whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, I loved the variety personally.
Did you start at a certain time? Did you say like from a certain year till today, or?
Yeah, so the charts only started in the late 1950s, and so I started around 1960 just to kind of allow that some of the songs that showed up early on the charts and artists that look like one hit wonders, but they were huge in the early 50s, but the charts didn't exist yet, so it kind of felt like that was not really the spirit of the project. So yeah, started around 1960.
Great. No, excited to see your presentation and what you have to showcase at Iron Viz.
Sure.
Ryan, so your dashboard Shark Tank, right? And the interesting thing here is, I know you're based out of Canada. Canada has its own version of Shark Tank called Dragon's Den, right?
Yeah.
So did you choose Shark Tank because it resonates with a wider audience? Is it, or you like that show better? Or like, what was your thought process in choosing Shark Tank as your theme?
Yeah, so I mean, I bounced around a few different ideas. How this one really came to me is like I have this moose. You guys
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah.
It's been like on my desk like the last year. It's a crochet kit, and the company that made those was on Shark Tank. So when I was just trying to think about ideas, I saw that and I said, okay, like everyone has, products that they own. What's the story behind those products? And one of those is Shark Tank. And to answer your question, the reason why I went that direction instead of Dragon's Den is just data availability.
Yeah.
I found a good data set and on Kaggle, and someone actually updates this data set every single episode of Shark Tank with all the pitches and all the deals. So it was in a clean format. So I just automatically went towards that one. And I feel like Shark Tank is a well-known show, like not just only in America, but in other places as well. So it would be a good medium for people to connect to the story that I was trying to tell. But the direction I was trying to go with it, which is why that the sand key flows through the whole thing, is just really outlining how difficult it is to ultimately make it on the show, but also highlighting the different outcomes of the show and how getting a deal isn't always the I mean, it's the goal, but it's not always the path to success from Shark Tank.
So there's a lot of takeaways you can get from Shark Tank that you can apply to this Iron Viz competition as well, right? Three of you are out there pitching your vizzes, and well, you're not trying to get money or investors. You're trying to kind of get the crowd to vote for you or get the judges on your side, right? So will you take some inspiration from your the data that you were actually working on and some of your observations from the show?
Yeah, I think the thing about Iron Viz is, as Kathryn mentioned, the audience doesn't have the opportunity to use your viz, so the presentation becomes even more important. So I think for me, um, trying to make the presentation as entertaining and engaging as possible will be something that I'll try to apply.
Yeah, no, of course. And Kathryn, you also chose a show, right? Outlanders.
Yep.
So what inspired you to use that for your viz?
I think I was just I wanted to do something. Well, I was going to say something I can relate to, but I've never actually seen Outlander. I've seen a couple of episodes, but nothing much. Um, but it is based in Scotland, obviously, so something a bit closer to home. And then, yeah, I think it was with ChatGPT on the way to work. I'm using the voice version of it, saying, "Do you have any ideas?" And then we're going back and forth, and then we came to Outlander, and then I saw that there was data on yeah, some of the key sites in Outlander and the visitor numbers before and after it appeared in the show. So then I had my data, and then I went forward with it.
Did you end up watching the show now? Like, have you watched it after you've created this?
I've seen a couple episodes because I started in October watching it. I thought, okay, maybe I can watch the whole thing and make notes like when this really was, when this site was first shown more yeah, precisely, and maybe I can have lots of data from the show. But I started and thought this is just totally unrealistic. There's so many seasons and so many episodes, and I was doing other things as well. So from what I've seen, it seems like a nice show, but I just haven't had the time.
Yeah, that's great. You know, you get inspiration on the data that you use, just like even if it's something that you're not 100% invested in or 100% know, you made your selection based on the quality of data that's available to you, right? And so that's great. That also goes to show, like, it just in our, I'm not talking about Iron Viz, in your regular like working life or whatever it may be, like, don't be afraid to try new things, even if you're not 100% sure about the industry or whatnot. You'll learn it. Like, I think that's part of being involved in data, is like you're kind of like that utility knife. As long as you're good at your craft and you're good at using and analyzing data, it doesn't matter what the data set is. You're going to take the same approach. Is that a fair? Do you think that's a fair statement, Kathryn, in respect to how you're using your data?
Yeah, 100%. I think you can, even if you, yeah, because I'm a consultant, so I'm going to different industries, different companies all the time, and you can always create something from what data they have, but it does help to have some kind of background. So I think once you have your topic, then sort of do a little bit of research to see where you're going with it. But yeah, 100%, you can go forward.
Yeah, and so I've seen all three of your submissions. I'll put a link out on the show notes for this podcast for everyone to kind of get a peek on the dashboards prior to Tableau Conference. But if I were to ask you guys, like, short, maybe 3 words or a few words, if you were to describe your Tableau style, what would it be? Let's start with you, Bo. What's your Tableau style?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I guess some words maybe that I would hope people would say. You know, I guess I'd like to think unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think colorful, and I guess the third word I'll choose is obvious. And I guess what I mean by that is, I think my style is characterized by being able to draw the story out of the visualization pretty quickly. So those are my words.
Awesome, great, Ryan.
Yeah, I think the one word I'd go for is probably just simplicity. I think in a lot of my work, it's not, too complex visuals. I try to, put it in a way that's sort of creative, but uh, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to communicate insights clearly, and that the audience can understand it very quickly. So I try to be very simple in all of the visualizations I create.
I love simplicity. I think people think that because you're using Tableau and you have the ability to be as creative as you can, that you start just putting everything out there. But sometimes the simple dashboards are the most impactful, and it kind of like makes you focus on the actual story itself. So I love that. Kathryn, what's your style?
I think I'm still finding my style, to be honest. I don't know if I've locked down a style yet. Yeah, I'd say I go for simple as well. I'm not doing overly complex things in Tableau, and if it gives the message across, then good. But yeah, I don't have a style locked down quite yet.
All right. And styles can change over time, right? Like I feel when I started my journey in Tableau, my style was very different than what it is now, and I've been using it for like 8 or 9 years. Um, do you guys find the same type of experience? And does your style change over time, or as you see other people develop dashboards as well?
I think for me, my style has evolved a ton. I think when I was first starting out, I had the advantage of working quietly in Tableau for 6 years, 7 years really, before I started putting anything out on Tableau Public. And so I think if you look at the things I was doing earlier on, another thing, when I started my career, I was fortunate that my boss at the time kind of saw an interest in me and hopefully a talent someday. And he sent me off to do an in-person training with Edward Tufte, who's kind of one of the heavy hitters in the field, and definitely some controversial opinions, but I would say my career like very much started with the okay, I'm a data to ink ratio disciple, I'm a kill every part of chart junk disciple, and like definitely kind of following more of that style. And I guess like when you ask me for words about my work now, I say things like unconventional and colorful. I think I'm definitely not doing the minimalistic style so much anymore. But I think for me, it's a cliche in the art world for sure, but like, and in a lot of worlds, but like, you learn the rules to break them. And so I would say I spent the first part of my career learning, kind of a lot of those rules that would be kind of industry standard accepted stuff. And then definitely kind of followed that for a long time, particularly my business dashboards and that kind of work. But then you start playing at the edges a little bit and you start thinking, okay, yeah, maybe someone might call that chart junk, but I actually think it kind of really enhances, what we're trying to do here. And like, well, yeah, obviously a white background is going to give you your maximum, options for contrast and colors you can use and whatever. But what if we don't do a white background on this one? And yeah, so for me, it's been a huge evolution. And I think too, we definitely kind of alluded to this earlier in the conversation, learning from others too. I think I started out imitating. I think a lot of us start out imitating, and then you spend time figuring out, can I make a dashboard that looks like this person's project? And then you open up an art book and you're like, can I make a dashboard that would remind someone of this type of painting or whatever? And then it definitely evolves from there. So and I think, yeah, for those of us who've been posting on Tableau Public for a long time too, you can see those evolutions. I go back to my first few Tableau Public posts, and I think like, gosh, it's really it's really very different. So yeah, I would say I've evolved a ton, and I hope that I continue evolving.
That brings up a good point, because I teach data analytics, like 10-week certification programs, Tableau being part of that program. And when I teach them Tableau and they all create a Tableau Public profile, I tell them that like, keep your first dashboard there. Don't delete it. Because you want people to see your journey from like where you started to where you are now. You don't want just your best stuff out there. You want to see like your growth, and there's no better way to and growth happens by learning and making things better. And so is that advice that you would give as well? Like, just keep everything and don't remove your first dashboards or what you learned from in earlier on in your experience or your career.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Like for me, I think I have over 100 something on Tableau Public. But yeah, sometimes I do go back to my first dashboard and see what it was and kind of how I've improved since then. But just going back to what Bo said, I actually use one of Bo's ideas in one of my recent visualizations. I got Viz of the Day a few months ago. I don't know if you remember that, Bo, but just a good example of like learning from others in the community. And that's one of the ways that your style can change, but that you can improve. That you can improve your skills in data viz.
No, that's great. Like, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of collaboration even amongst the three of you, right? Like, I know this is a competition and you're against each other to win, but at the end of the day, and I think this is true and this resonates for everyone who works in Tableau, we're all part of the same data fam, right? And we're all in it together. But having said that, it is a competition. So knowing what you guys know about each other now, and I'm assuming this is the first time you all met, right? You have not met prior to this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You each still feel confident that you have a shot to win it? And who's the biggest threat? Do you guys what's your sentiment now?
Well, for me, it's. I mean, I think we're all very worthy and deserving of being in the final three, and I don't know if either of any of us expected to be in the final three. So, I think it's. I think we're all going to do our best. We're all going to put forward a great project, and for me, it's for me, I'm going to value the experience regardless of who wins the competition.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah, I think we're all just honoured to be here and happy to be involved, even just being on the stage, the three of us together, and second and third place also win a prize. So nothing to lose here. As
You're
long
all
as we
winners
manage to
already, right? You're all winners already.
yeah, for sure. So
And I agree with everything Ryan and Kathryn said. And, I think this is different from a lot of other competitions in that, we are, we're not running a race. There's not going to be an objective answer to who did the best job and who did the second and third best jobs. I know we have three really talented people who are going to go into this competition. We're all going to, put on a good show. And, the only thing we can each control is our own work. And, at the end of the day, it's a human decision. A group of people will look at our projects and they will rank them somehow. Obviously, we know the criteria, but there's no way to objectively say this is the best project. And so I think I'm going in with that mindset of having fun and knowing that we're all going to do a great job. And ultimately, at the end of the day, someone will get the trophy and two of us won't. But I'm sure we'll all have done something cool.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I love the humility and humbleness from all three of you, and but I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm hoping I can meet the three of you in person there. Maybe get a few sound bites after the competition. Get to see your thoughts and experiences post conference. Now that I have them pre-conference, so I'm really excited to meet you guys in person in San Diego. But before we go, can you each one of you just let people know how they can get in touch with you, or if there's the best way to connect? Kathryn, start with you.
I guess on LinkedIn would be the best for me. Yep.
Good. Ryan?
Yeah, I read LinkedIn or also on X. Either of those, you can reach out to me.
And Bo?
Yeah, you can find me on most social platforms at Bo Knows Data, or I'll be on LinkedIn as well. Have a little website in the works too, but that might not be up for a while yet. So, but yeah, feel free to reach out. Would love to hear from people.
Yeah, if you guys want to shoot me all your links, I'll also include that here in the show notes for the podcast, so people can connect with you. So this has been great. Really looking forward to Tableau Conference, and I'm hoping you guys got a little bit of knowledge that may help you out, and maybe a little bit of a rehearsal prior to the actual competition, right? Getting the three of you in front of the camera, in front of speaking to an audience.
Yep, definitely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.